The quiet lapping of waves is shattered by the metallic scrape of hull against hull. On June 17, 2024, in the vast South China Sea, rigid inflatable boats from the Philippine Navy are swarmed by much larger vessels from the China Coast Guard. Chinese personnel, armed with knives and axes, jump aboard the smaller boats. They slash the vessels, destroy equipment, and seize supplies. Under orders not to use their firearms, Filipino sailors are left to defend themselves with their bare hands. One loses a thumb. This isn't a scene from a movie. This is a real event in what might be the world's most dangerous body of water, where a single miscalculation could ignite a global conflict. It's a place where ancient territorial claims are clashing with modern military hardware, and the close calls are getting closer. This sea is a ticking time bomb, and the entire world is in the blast radius. To understand why this waterway is so dangerous, you just have to follow the money, and the oil, and the fish. This isn't just any patch of ocean. It's a global superhighway for maritime trade. Trillions of dollars worth of goods pass through these waters every year, nearly a quarter of all global maritime trade. Energy supplies from the Middle East, which are crucial for the economies of China, Japan, and South Korea, all flow through here. Any disruption sends immediate shockwaves through the global economy. But the fight isn't just about what passes through the sea, it's also about what lies beneath it. The South China Sea is believed to hold vast, untapped reserves of oil and natural gas. It also contains some of the world's most vital fishing grounds that feed millions. It's a treasure map, and everyone wants a piece. Overlapping claims from China, the Philippines, Vietnam, Taiwan, Malaysia, Brunei, and Indonesia have turned the sea into a complex web of disputed territories. The most contested areas are two groups of tiny islands and reefs, the Paracels and the Spratlys. To the naked eye, they are little more than specks of sand and coral in a vast blue expanse. But in this geopolitical chess game, they're some of the most valuable real estate on the planet. If you control the islands, you can strengthen your claim to the resources and shipping lanes around them. And one nation has drawn a line on the map so large it eclipses all other claims, becoming the single most controversial feature in modern geopolitics. It's called the 9-dash line. This U-shaped demarcation first appeared on a Chinese map in the 1940s and lays claim to roughly 90% of the entire South China Sea. For Beijing, this isn't a modern invention, but a historical right, an assertion of sovereignty stretching back centuries. The problem? The rest of the world operates on a different set of rules. Specifically, the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS. This is the constitution for the world's oceans, signed and ratified by over 160 countries, including China. It defines territorial waters and, crucially, exclusive economic zones, EEZs, which give coastal nations rights to resources extending 200 nautical miles from their shores. Under UNCLOS, China's 9-dash line doesn't hold water. In 2016, the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague made that official. In a landmark case brought by the Philippines, the tribunal ruled that China's historical claims had no basis in international law. Beijing's response? It ignored the ruling completely, dismissing it as a political farce. And so the stage was set for the current conflict. China, insisting on its historical rights while ignoring international law, versus its smaller neighbors who are trying to defend their legally recognized territory and resources. This isn't a simple misunderstanding. It's a fundamental clash of worldviews, where one side is playing by a rulebook only it seems to recognize. Before we get into how this conflict is playing out on the front lines, let's talk about staying informed. Navigating the complex world of geopolitics requires clear, unbiased information. If you want to support the channel and get a deeper understanding of the world, subscribe to Urban Monk Nest channel now. China's strategy to enforce its claims is brutally effective. It's called gray zone warfare, a campaign of coercion and intimidation designed to stay just below the threshold of an actual armed attack. It's death by 1,000 cuts, executed by a fleet that blurs the lines between civilian and military. The stars of this show are the China Coast Guard, CCG, and a shadowy force known as the Maritime Militia. These aren't just fishing boats, they are a de facto naval force of steel-hulled vessels that work with the Coast Guard to bully and harass anyone operating in waters China claims as its own. The main flashpoint in this gray zone war is a tiny submerged reef in the Spratly Islands called the Second Thomas Shoal. In 1999, the Philippines deliberately grounded a World War II-era ship, the BRP Sierra Madre, on the shoal to serve as a makeshift military outpost, a symbol of sovereign control. A small detachment of Filipino Marines has been stationed there ever since, living on a rusting hulk in the middle of the ocean. For China, the Sierra Madre is an illegal occupation. For the Philippines, it's a desperate last stand. The result is a relentless siege. Every attempt by the Philippine Navy and Coast Guard to resupply their troops is met with a Chinese blockade. We've seen Chinese ships ram smaller Filipino boats, fire high-pressure water cannons, and even use military-grade lasers to temporarily blind the crew of a Philippine Coast Guard vessel. The human cost is mounting. Filipino fishermen who have plied these waters for generations are now being driven from their traditional fishing grounds. At Scarborough Shoal, another contested feature, China has erected a floating barrier, physically blocking Filipino boats from entering the lagoon their families have relied on for centuries. Allegations have also become more sinister, with the Philippines accusing Chinese fishermen of using cyanide to destroy the marine environment, a charge China denies. Vietnam is facing a similar reality and has been the target of intensely coercive incidents, with its fishing and oil exploration vessels constantly harassed. The most dramatic example was in 2014, when China towed a massive oil rig directly into Vietnam's EEZ, flanked by warships, sparking a tense standoff and violent protests. While this gray zone harassment grinds on, a far more ominous development is taking shape. After a pause, China has resumed a construction spree of epic proportions, transforming reefs and atolls in the Paracels and Spratlys into full-blown military bases. What were once pristine coral reefs are now artificial islands, dredged from the sea floor and fortified with concrete. They boast 3-kilometer-long airstrips capable of handling any aircraft in the Chinese military, hangars for fighter jets, deep-water ports for warships, and advanced sensor arrays. Armed with surface-to-air missiles and anti-ship cruise missiles, these tiny specks of land have been turned into unsinkable aircraft carriers. The latest and most alarming project is on Antelope Reef in the Paracels. In a matter of months, China has reclaimed over 1,500 acres of land, building what could soon become its largest base in the entire South China Sea, a massive military hub just a few hundred miles from Vietnam's coast. Vietnam has formally protested this expansion, but like the 2016 tribunal ruling, its words have been ignored. This is what makes the situation so perilous. It's no longer just about fishing rights. It's about a permanent, forward-deployed military presence that threatens freedom of navigation for all nations. And that brings the United States into the picture. The U.S. has a mutual defense treaty with the Philippines that dates back to 1951. For years, it was unclear if this treaty applied to disputed waters. That ambiguity is gone. Washington has now explicitly stated that an armed attack on any Philippine public vessel, aircraft, or armed forces, including its Coast Guard, in the South China Sea will invoke the treaty. The U.S. Navy regularly conducts freedom of navigation operations, or FONOPs, sailing warships through waters claimed by China to challenge its excessive maritime claims. Each time a U.S. destroyer sails past one of these artificial islands, it's a direct challenge to Beijing's authority, and a moment fraught with the potential for miscalculation. The June 2024 incident, where Chinese forces boarded and damaged Philippine naval vessels, was the closest the situation has come to crossing that red line. Manila chose not to invoke the treaty that time, but the next incident could be different. With American and Chinese warships, fighter jets, and drones all operating in the same crowded space, the risk of an accident spiraling into a military confrontation is terrifyingly real. The South China Sea is now a cauldron of simmering conflict, where historical grievances, economic ambitions, and national pride have collided. China continues its relentless campaign to turn the sea into a de facto Chinese lake, using gray zone tactics to create new facts on the water and building military bases to lock in those gains. The Philippines and Vietnam are pushing back, determined not to be squeezed out of their own backyard, but they are outmatched. Looming over it all is the United States, bound by treaty to defend its ally, the Philippines, while managing an increasingly fraught relationship with a rising China. Recent talks between Manila and Beijing, resuming for the first time in over a year, offer a fragile glimmer of hope, but the pattern of escalation is undeniable. We are no longer talking about hypotheticals. We have seen ramming, water cannons, armed boardings, and injuries. The close calls are becoming collisions. With so much at stake, with tensions this high, and with so many weapons packed into such a small space, the question is no longer if a deadly confrontation will happen, but when, and whether the world is prepared for the day this flashpoint finally ignites. What do you think? Is a conflict in the South China Sea inevitable? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to stay on top of the most critical geopolitical issues shaping our world, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching.